Hi everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with Spellbinders, and we are going to do our 10 cards 1 kit with using the card kit of the month, and this is for March 2020. This kit is called Feeling Hoppy. That is awesome. Alright, so let's look at what comes in our kit, as we always do right off the bat. So, as always, we get our card that states what the contents are, and it also gives you a little bit of inspiration, and this was something that did inspire me for one of my cards. I believe it will be the last card that you will see. So of course, our cardstock, you get a gray, a gold, a purple, a yellow, an orange, a white, light green, dark green, and a dark pink. You also get your 10 card bases and your 10 envelopes. Now, these card bases are standard A2 size, which means they're 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and they are side folding cards when they are in the portrait way. You get a roll of your double-sided tape and a square of your double-sided foam squares. You also get your 6x6 paper pad, and again, that is called Feeling Hoppy, and these are just some of the designs that you will see. Some of the pages are gold foiled as well, like this one, and they just add a really sharp accent. So from banners to stripes to scallops to bunnies, you have many options when it comes to your paper pad. Now remember, this is a paper pad. This is not thick cardstock. So this pattern paper is great for layering because you can use multiple pieces of this and not get so thick. That's something that I do enjoy as you're layering. You get a pack of gold fleck gemstones. You also get a packet of some stickers. Now, some of these are 3D, some of these are sentiments, and some of these are just plain images. Here are the 3D stickers that come into the kit. Some really cute ideas. Here are some of the sentiments and also strips of patterns to resemble washi tape. And then, of course, here are your images, whether it's just patterns on the images or whether they have some sentiments in them. Of course, if you've seen my previous videos, you know I am in love with the die cuts. There is so much you can do with these. I love layering. I love collaging. I think that's, you know, I always put that in on my junk journal side of the videos, but I just love taking these die cuts and layering them up onto the bases with the pattern paper and everything else. So I think the versatility of these is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So just with your die cuts alone, you are not limited to only 10 cards. You're limited to 10 cards because that's what you receive in the kit. So dig into your stash and get more card bases, and you can just create so many more cards. This is the stamp set that comes with it, so the images are absolutely adorable. And then, as always, you get your die set. So the ears coming off of that is absolutely hysterical and adorable, and we will be having fun with those as well. So let's get started with our first card. So as always, I use the double-sided tape. I do try to stick with the contents of the kit as much as possible. I do pull in my liquid adhesive. Sometimes it's a little bit quicker for video purposes, and you can see I do have spares. I do not receive more in my kit. I know I was asked that. Sometimes in my kits I do have extra. I don't use all of the foam square. And plus recently I've learned to cut that foam square up to use all of it. So whatever I have left over, I keep in a little pot and I continue to grab from it. I always do have extra of the double-sided tape from the kit, which is wonderful. So you can see how I am just cutting pieces from the block that was left over from a previous kit. And now I'm just continuing to add little tiny pieces to the basket. I do want that propped up over the image that I have over my pattern paper. I will always use my double-sided tape to place my background onto my card base. And then, as I said, I just usually pull in other tools or my liquid adhesive from the kit. So now I will remove the release paper so that we can get this adhered to our card front. I am absolutely in love with those ears, and they just need to be coming out of the basket. And I will make sure that I have glue up on top as well so that they stay there. And then I'm just going to pop this banner sentiment right underneath. And that is our first card. So for our next card, as always, we're going to start out by putting our pattern paper down onto the back side so that we can get this onto our standard A2 size card base. And I chose a very pale background, and I also took another piece of another pattern paper with pink stripes, and I'm going around that with vintage photo. You knew that was coming in, right? I'm just saying. And I'm just going to set them down. And now I'm going to layer some of the die cuts. So in some areas I do use the vintage photo, and some areas I do not. It all depends. I fell in love with the eggs that were part of the die cuts, and I'm just having fun placing them all around because, of course, the sentiment says, "Let the hunt begin." And I think that just cracks me up. Come on, we remember when we were kids and we used to do egg hunts. We were vicious. At least I was. I'm going to be honest. Absolutely, I would, you know, do a little mini hip check. Again, I was like 5. Do a little mini hip check to get somebody out of my way when I saw an egg. Absolutely. And then the parents got sadistic. Think about it. You know, hiding them in places where you would never think. Nor would a child go. Yes. That's what happened as I grew older to my nephew. I got sadistic. I'm like, he'll never find this one. You know, let's be honest. They were fun to watch. But, you know, kids, you know, you put candy, money, toys in front of them. Let the hunt begin. Absolutely. So I'm using both the liquid adhesive now that y'all have learned a little bit about me. Yes! You're learning the true me. So between these double-sided foam squares and my liquid adhesive, we just had a grand old time just placing those eggs around. We're going to set some greenery on the outside. Of course, it's after the fact that I've placed the piece down using my liquid adhesive, but I'm okay pulling it up and adding a flower to that corner. We're going to add some of the speckled gems, and we're just going to place those around and throughout using the different colors. Of course, I feel the need to throw them and not pull everything off so that they stick, because that's what I do. It was a fun card. Okay, let's see what story we come up with this one. All right, so I don't think we'll come up with one. So again, using our double-sided tape, we're going to put that down on our standard A2 size card base. You can see I've grabbed, there are some beautiful butterflies in this. They look like they have a watercolor feel to them, and then just some gold foil accents when it comes to the bodies. So I'm going to set another piece of pattern paper that I've just used my scissors to cut. I used no dye, just cut that. It's not perfect, and again, I'm okay with that. I'm going to use some of the circles that came with the die cuts. There's both solid and one with a sentiment, so I'm just going to put those around the hillside. And now we're going to set the butterflies to come up off of that. I will use the double-sided foam squares for the wings, just to give them some dimension up onto the card. Now I've got 4 there. I'm trying to know if I'm going to put 3 or if I'm going to put all of them. I haven't decided. So we will see. what I do decide. I had a lot of fun with this kit. And it did. You know, some of the sentiments and some of the images did bring back memories. And the memories for me were at my grandmother's. We used to always go to her house when it came to Easter, and the food. Oh, I miss her Easter bread. When it came to just some of the traditions that we had. So lots of smiling was going on as I was putting these cards together, which I think is wonderful, because that's what this is about, is to give you memories, to create memories. You know, with these items, you know, paper is a great medium. We can write things down and hold on to those memories and go back in time and read it. And it's something that can be passed down. I don't want to minimize photos, but I am a fan of paper and what that can do. I don't know. It's just something, paper is just something different for me. So those are the way that I finally got those arranged. And again, I'm going to add some of those speckled gems down onto the card. For our next card, again, we're going to set down our panel, and you can see the vintage photo is already coming out. So we are going to place that around some of the images as well. And again, that just, even though it's a brown, it's a very universal shade. It helps to identify, it helps to pull out the images to make sure that they are standing out, to make sure that the eye is catching them. Now, it doesn't mean if you didn't use the vintage photo that they wouldn't be seen. Of course they would. But by keeping your background the way that it is and not putting it around there, you're able to attract these pieces and pull them off. That's what I think. Again, somebody else could look at it differently. Absolutely. I'm going to use my double-sided tape to put this striped panel down, which will help break up the background and also help these images to come to the forefront. So I'm just playing with the placement of these items, and again, with the mixture of my double-sided foam squares and the liquid adhesive, we will get these up into place. So you can see, you can really cut down that square, which is kind of awesome, and I think is really cool. So even though it doesn't look normal, it's still doing the same thing of what a normal looking foam square would do. And again, you probably don't even have to use as much as what I am. I'm just having way too much fun with it. I'm going to remove the release paper and set our pieces in place. I did like this sentiment too. Eggs be friends. Okay. Yes, I'm tired. And yes, I need more coffee. I'm just saying. But I did. I just had a really good time with this. Again, I love the sentiments that are either sarcastic or have great puns to them. It's going to be a certain pun, but again, that was just one of them. I'm going to add again some more of those gems and place them around to help draw the eye into the images. So again, using some more of the pattern paper, as I always do, I did take a piece of pattern paper and cut it on an angle. So that's going to sit on top of the large panel that we have there. And again, my panels are all cut to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 for this one. I'm going to use some of my double-sided foam tape from my stash, because if I used what came in the kit, I would have used up all of it. So I am digging into my stash so that I can just cut some small pieces to get this propped up, but to be also a solid panel when it was propped up onto the card. So I'm going to remove the release paper, and I'm going to set that in place. I'm using the vintage photo around all of the die cuts that I have here. So I grabbed some memos, I grabbed a file folder, I grabbed some tickets, and of course a floral. And we're just going to place those in behind the piece of paper that's propped up. And then we're going to set the floral going across all of those. And then this way it would also, hide the openings that I have on the pieces that are set behind that panel, because this floral is going to sit above it and straddle it. So it helps if it didn't, because since I have the double-sided foam tape, I couldn't push the items down as far as maybe as I wanted to. Going to remove the release paper, add some glue to the bottom, and then we will set that right in place. The sentiment that I'm using is with love, and that's going to sit just below the florals. Going to add some more of these gems because we get so many. And there's 4 different colors. There's an ivory, a dark blue, a pink, and a very light green. So you do get lots of choices for that. For our next card, again, more of those die cuts. I'm going to place my first panel down onto my card base, and then I have another piece of pattern paper to be set on top of the bicycles. Going to set this, offset it actually to one side. I'm going to have the rabbit, and I want to make sure that the rabbit is set correctly. It looks like the rabbit is sitting up on his hind legs, so that's the impression that I do want to give. Before I remove the release paper, so the florals that are in the die cut pack, I want to make sure it's like he's sitting from underneath those. He's coming out of those. So those are going to be set around the bottom, and then he's going to be positioned up off of those. So I'm cutting some very thin strips so that they will sit on the branches, because the flowers themselves are actually going to be up onto the bunny. And I'm really not worried about putting glue on them. And you can see they're just sitting right along the line of the pattern paper. So then we have the little bunny coming out. I have my sentiment in the circle that says Honey Bunny. And then I'm going to fill in with these yellow flowers along the bottom and along the base of those. For our next one, I wanted to dive into the 3D stickers. I think that one bunny is just precious with the little tiny flowers, the little flower band going across there. So I'm just going straight on to my card base, and I only have a strip of the pattern paper. We're not going to cover that up. Within the die cuts, I saw these 3 carrots, and I don't know, I was just basically drawing with the carrots. I'm actually going to use the sticker to help set those down. I'm going to use both my liquid adhesive again and also the double-sided foam squares to prop up multiple sentiments. So they're going to sit in the white panel. So the top one, of course, says Happy Easter. And then the other one is going to say Sweet Treats. I'm actually going to cut that so that I can layer them up on top of each other a little bit, because that one carrot's already set in place, but I need this to come up just a little bit so that it's not covered up by the carrot top. So I want to set that up underneath the gold just a little bit. We'll add some gems in different colors just to give that a little bit more of an accent. I took one of the pieces of pattern paper that had the lines coming down on a diagonal and in a point, and I'm going to use my double-sided foam tape from my stash because, again, I would use up that entire square. And I'm going to set this up onto my standard card base, and I'm going to set that directly onto the card base. But I did want this to have an angle, that angle look. So filling that up with different cuts and strips, removing the release paper. Now we're going to go straight down onto that and set that in place. The die cuts that I chose are going to accent off of the pattern paper, so I'm going to be putting those down onto the card base itself. So with the bright colors, they will have no problem sticking out. Removing the release paper, I'm going to set that down on the left-hand corner. And then I'll be setting, just lifting that up so that I can continue the florals up onto the other images. I'm going to set the bow in place on top of the mug as well. For this one, I used one of the dies. Now, the die that I used was actually the decorative with the hem stitch and the scallop going around that oval. So what it does is it just gives you the frame, but it also cuts out the center. So I used that twice using the gold cardstock and also the gray cardstock. So I'm going to use it just the way that it's sitting there on my table. I'm going to use the gold to accent off of the gray. So it's just going to help that to stand out, make it look a little dimensional. I'm going to use my liquid adhesive to set that down. I do have the pattern paper also sitting on an angle on that. And I'm going to be using the vintage photo around each of the die cut elements. I'm going to create a bouquet coming off of those ovals. So now we're just going to play with the placement, again, using the double-sided foam squares and also the liquid adhesive. The other thing that I really enjoy when it comes to the die cuts, you get 2 of each one. So that's really nice. So you can really, expand across the image and add multiple elements to it. But you can see I'm still very, even though I say I'm not even with 90 degrees, I am even with images. So for our last card, I was very inspired by what was on the card that you get as part of the kit. So what I did was I'm using elements. So I cut the frame in using the gold, and then I also cut from the green some of the leaves. Now what's nice is you could cut 2 more of those, and have multiple strands coming up, multiple leaves coming up. And then I also did cut from the white the bunny ears, and I had to have them on an angle because I just thought it was cute. I'm going to take one of the center panels that came from the frame, and I'm going to use my tumbled glass and faded jeans to just add some colors to that center, because I want the background in the frame to be the sky, almost make it look like a window. And then the greens coming up. Now you could really have a lot of fun with that. I mean, there's also dies to create little flowers and add that and really fill that up. But I didn't actually want to take away from the greens that came up. And the greens are what I used to adhere the sky to this. So I have my pattern papers cut, and I'm going to use my double-sided foam tape and get that set. And I also loved when they actually used the background, that blue and white checked background. And it just really caught my eye when it came to that. So I cut a smaller square, and I'll set that down onto my pattern paper. I'm now going to glue my frame set. I also love the way the bunny ears go off to the side. It's just the way I would wear bunny ears. And plus, if I was never mind. My head would always be cocked to the side. I'm going to insert the pink for the center of the ears. And those are our 10 cards from our Spellbinders card kit of the month for March, Feeling Hoppy. So I do hope you enjoyed all of the cards. Here is the rundown of them in a normal speed so that you can see just how they do look. As always, all of the products that I used, if I did use anything from the outside, will be listed down below in the video description. And if you have any questions or comments, please make sure you leave those down below, and I will make sure to get back to you. Also, what will be down below are links to the Spellbinders shop, their blog, their inspiration gallery. There's just so much that is available on their website. And again, I will have all of that linked below. And remember, some of the items from the kit are available individually, such as the paper pad, the die cuts, and maybe the stickers or the gems. It all depends. So make sure you keep an eye out for that as well. If you haven't already, I'd love for you to subscribe. Make sure you do hit that button. Make sure you also hit the bell so that you're notified when the next video is live. And then, of course, hit that thumbs up. If you've already subscribed recently or whether you've been with me from the beginning, I say thank you so much. I truly do appreciate it, and there's so much more to come. I hope everyone is enjoying their day, but always remember what's most important for me, and we've got to do it at least once a day. Always be creative.